How do folks, David here. Another video, and again I am going to be, well, getting as much off the pile of shame as I possibly can. But before I begin, I just want to give you a heads up that there is going to be a special long form video dropping over the weekend. Spurred on from some very kind words of encouragement by one of you viewers and some shared photos, I am getting on with the filming of the Tanith refurbishment. Now, in a first for this channel, because it actually harks back to a time where there was an amount of unpleasantness in this city. In fact, we've only just passed the 15-year anniversary of it. It's the first time that I have actually put a parental advisory trigger warning at the start of one of my videos. The first part of it does get a little bit deep, but I do leave timestamps and you can jump to sort of like the rest of the video proper without sort of the back history. So that is something that is coming up, and it has been a long time coming. The whole project has been a long time coming, and yeah, I'm going to be getting into it. As for what I'm going to be doing in this video, well, I do need to finish off that other buggy, but to be perfectly honest, after doing all of the editing for that Tanith video, and sorry, I should say this is going to be part one of 2, maybe 3, because a lot of the footage for it was filmed last year. I've consolidated that, and it's looking to be an epic bigger than Ben-Hur, so I have got to split it into a number of parts. But after having gone through all of that sort of heavy stuff, just reviewing it and editing it, I definitely need a palate cleanser. I want to get away from vehicles and do something fun. I don't know. I'll dive into the pile of shame over there and see what tickles me fancy. But first off, let's get back to that buggy. Right, let's dive straight back into the painting on this, and if I recall correctly, it was going to be dry brush of gunmetal. So we are essentially looking at the weaponry. Not sure what colour I'm going to do the missile yet, but I may as well start off by giving it at least a metal sort of undercoat, and then I can work up from there. Get that exhaust done, get around on the tyres. Might need to reblock some of that black back in. It hasn't necessarily taken brilliantly. And then there's just a couple of places where I want to do actual proper straight gunmetal, and these kind of look like hinges at the back on these flaps, mudguards rather. I'll do completely around the lights. Almost forgot that cable set at the front. Get that done in. Right. And then there is a sort of... Do I want to do metallic trim on there? I'll tell you what, I am going to do this part metallic just to break up that section a wee bit, because otherwise it's just going to be a little bit too much all in sort of like that primary blue colour. Alright, that's broken that up quite nicely. I'm happy with that. Yeah, I'll do the door handle as well, just to break that area up. Alright, and that can dry for a little while, and I'll go and grab the other miniatures that I'm going to do. Right, while that coat's drying, oh yeah, I'm going to have that one. It's been sort of staring accusingly at us. It's some kind of water elemental, bits of a boat, lots of waves. Yeah, that'll be fun. And the other one I want, I'm pretty sure is on here. Not that one, there we are. I've been promising that I'm going to do the final 4 of these for absolutely ages. So I think what I'll do, I'll get these ones cleaned up, based, get the basing material on, and see if I can get them in for a black undercoat tonight. And this one, you know, I think I'm going to give that one a shot with the contrast paints, and I might just hand brush that one. Right, so the Masters and Missy have been prepped and are off for their undercoat. And Now I am going to swap between, where is it? These two models. This has had a bit of a dry, but I did notice that there were a couple of areas where sort of the blue is showing through on those tyres. So I do want to give that a little bit of a touch up. Plus there's just a little bit of area kind of around the wheel rim where I sort of went over a bit, and that just needs to be neatened up. Right, that can have a bit of a dry again before I move on to the next section on that. And then on this one, what I'm going to do is all of the bits of sort of like the boat or the wood, I'm going to give that an undercoat of black and then a really heavy dry brush of white, and then all of the water gets white. And hopefully that will be enough of a sort of contrast thing for the contrast paints to work properly. I am determined to make sure that those contrast paints will actually work for me. And of course I don't have to be too precious, because I am going to be going back over the sort of water area with white. So while I don't necessarily want to waste paint, I am just going to be sort of slapping this undercoat on there. Okay, I've put the black on that. The black on the tyres is still maybe a wee bit tacky, but I should be able to get away with just adding a wee spot of grey into that black there. Give that a decent mix through. Yeah, I might need some more black on that. Yeah, it's a sort of darker grey that I'm after. Aye, that'll do. I might have to go over that with a black ink, you know, because it's just coming out a wee bit too grey on there. I'll see what it looks like. It's not looking overly bad. And I will be doing a bit of weathering on there, so I may just leave it as is. I might need daylight to see what that looks like properly. I've put the buggy and the elemental off to one side because it is the next day and the masters are ready for a quick dry brush. And I'm just going over this with grey, essentially over the whole model, well, apart from the shoes. And while I'm waiting for that to dry, I may as well quickly get the bases done. And then we have some old style Citadel black wash, just to knock back sort of the real overemphasized highlights that dry brushing has done, and take it back to the master's black garments. And for Missy's clothing, it's sort of like a maroony purple, so I've got one part of old Citadel red wash to about 3 parts of the purple, and let's see how this comes out. Yeah, that's not bad at all. It'll be good to see how that dries. I'm very happy with the way that's looking under the light. All the masters can go off to one side. Probably that is going to be as much as we see of them tonight, because I do want to give the ink coat a decent chance to dry before I do anything else. So it is back to these two models. Now, I need to dry brush the dark, I need to block in white on all the rest of that, and I need white on the windows of this one. Now, this is the first time that I have tried this particular method of dry brushing, and this is using a makeup brush. And I've obviously got too much on there. Well, that's starting to bring it out very nicely. I am not unhappy with that effect. That's actually an excellent way of doing dry brushing. Bravo to whoever thought of it. That's suitably contrasting, so that will go for the contrast paints. And now I'll get on with the white on all of the rest of it. Okay, I shall carry on. Okay, I have ploughed on with a little bit of spot colour on this because I wasn't happy with the way that it was looking. I am going to apply one more colour before I do transfers and weathering, and that is a bit of bone white, and I'm hoping that this works because I'm kind of going for, I guess, a bit of a retro feel to these. So just pick out those raised areas on the guards. Yeah, I think that will come out quite nicely. So I had been hoping to get this video up last night. Unfortunately, I have been sick as a dog. You can probably hear it in my voice, and I just ran out of energy, even just for sitting down and painting. So it is the next day. Excuse the sniffing. I will get as much done as I possibly can, and then get this one up for you guys to see. I am going to concentrate on this water elemental, and we'll try again with the speed paints. I've got a couple of them selected already just for the wood or the boat remnants, and I am taking advice from you kind viewers, and I'm not using a wet palette. I'm using just some old packaging for use as a palette here, and shaking the bejesus out of the paints before I actually use them. And because apparently it sort of separates while it's on the palette, you've got to kind of mix it through again before you apply anything. And I'm going to use this dark wood just for the inside of the boat. And maybe that is what I had been doing wrong all the way, because already I can see that there is a vast difference in what it is coming out like. I might have to go back over with a bit of white when it comes to doing the water, which is unfortunate, but these things are sent to try us. Yeah, I can already see that that is massively better. All right, next colour, and I'm going to go for warrior skin, because it's still sort of like a brown colour, and I want this for the outside of the boat. I think possibly for the colour that I'm after, a wee bit of a mix of the dark brown and the warrior skin is the way to go forward, and that is fine. That is working. Yeah, that's not looking too bad. Yeah, I can cope with that. Ha! Maybe I've cracked it. All right, I'll give that a little bit of a dry before I put the next colours on. Now, because the boat itself seems very sort of elven to me, for part of the hull, I'm going to go for a shamrock green, because there are sort of leaf patterns on the front, and hopefully that's going to be sort of like a nice vibrant contrast. Yeah, that's looking not bad. Maybe let's go back over this one and get a wee bit more pigment on there. And then for the metallic sort of binding to the prow of the boat, I am going to go with Hoplite Gold. That should add a nice bit of spot colour there to what is going to be, well, a lot of blues and browns. And you can certainly see the kind of separation of the colours on this one. Get rid of that air bubble. I think I've had a bit too much paint loaded onto the brush. Either that or the metallic is a wee bit more finicky, because it's sort of bled onto the lower areas quite badly. That means I'm going to have to go back over the green. Oh well, it is what it is. But what it does mean is that my plan for doing a sort of blending on the water is probably going to work out quite nicely if I manage to hurry up and get the paint on in a reasonably speedy amount of time. So what I've done, I have gone round and I've touched up sort of like the white where I've gone over with those darker colours, and it's had a decent chance to dry, and I am more than happy with the way that that is looking. So now it is onto the watercolours. Now, because of the sort of like mistakes that I guess I had doing these sections, and I think what I have to do is change the mindset I have when painting with these things. Rather than work from the bottom upwards in layers in the way that I would with normal paints, or the way you're supposed to with normal paints, for these things it actually says use the lighter colours first. So for the water, I'm going to be using 4 colours, and I've selected them here. Everything from a light blue all the way down to a green for sort of like the deepest. Rather than work from the deepest recesses upward,
I am going to paint from the top downwards using the lightest colour first, and if I accidentally go onto a lower layer, or it bleeds down onto a lower layer with the light colour, then I get to cover it over with a darker colour in any case, so there shouldn't be any kind of problem. So that is what I am going to try and do. So I've got all my paints out ready, and let's just dive in. And might be a wee bit too much on there, but we'll see. And like I say, I just want to be catching sort of like the most prominent areas, and with it being water, I'm just sort of like using long sweeping strokes, and we'll see what it comes out like. I'm going to have to keep an eye on that palette, because unfortunately that's looking like it's bled, or the paints have run. Nah, I don't like that. I don't like the way that's coming out. We'll go over the whole lot, and if some of it comes out and is sort of blended in, then that is fine. But yeah, that was an error on my part, just in choosing that particular colour. It hasn't come out the way that I'd hoped it would, but that's okay. It's all a learning curve. Yeah, I'm not certain that I'm liking this on flat areas. There's definitely going to have to be some touch-up work done on this. It's not covering or blending in the way that I hoped, and as I'm going back over areas, it's just lifting the pigment. But that's all right. I have a cunning plan. Well, on dry brushed areas, I'm fine with it, but on a flat white, according to the manufacturer's instructions, it's still rubbish. I mean, look at that. That's just lifting a straight white undercoat off. Whatever they put in these things, yeah, okay, so there's remedial action on there. It's okay. I do know what I'm going to do about that. But that is a little bit disappointing. Okay, I'll pop that down, and I'll use this blended colour just to go around the edge. Not massively happy with that at all, it's got to be said. And it was going so well after the wood. Okay, so I have given this a decent chance to dry, and I am not happy with the way it is looking. But that does not mean that we cannot resurrect it, because I think that using that same dry brush technique that we did originally should just be able to blend that colour down and get it to something that is far more palatable. And that'll just lighten everything up and give it a bit of a blend. That's far better. And do a wee bit around the base as well. Yeah, that method of dry brushing certainly does do a good job. I am really, really happy with that. But we have in our arsenal something to give it a bit of foam. Reeves Coarse Texture Gel. Let's get some of that out, and let's just get a bit of spray where there's likely to be spray, which is going to be sort of like around the prow of the boat and up on sort of like the crests of these waves, and definitely up on those sort of streamery ones like that. And I think that just nicely sets it all off. Alright, I will leave that to dry, and we are going to call that one done. So I applied the decals to this one off camera, and I am going to classify it as being done, even though there's still weathering to do, but I think that warrants a video in and of itself. But this one I am more than happy with, and it's been absolutely brilliant just being able to do something other than, well, a science fiction vehicle or science fiction troops. So yeah, before I run out of energy again, I am going to wind this video up here. But of course, we do need to add some marks up on that ever-present scoreboard. And it's a vehicle and a monstrous creature. Two in the same category. Missy and the other masters will have to wait for another day, quite possibly tomorrow. And then finally I'll be able to get a few more on that troops category. Obviously, as you've seen, lessons from this video, I am still struggling a little bit with those contrast paints.
speed paints. I don't know why they call them speed paints, because in a lot of cases I was having to go back over the same area 2-3 times to get it right. And so many tricks, like don't hold your model upside down and that kind of thing. Yeah, apply only one coat, wait for it to dry, otherwise it's just going to lift everything. I will get there. Obviously the first part, the wood part, more than happy with. But again, that thing of working with your lighter coloured first and then going to the darker colours, regardless of whereabouts sort of vertically in the model they were, that is going to take a little bit of getting used to. I will get there. I am going to persevere with them. However, that is it for this video. If you've enjoyed it, please do hit the subscribe button if you are new around here. Hit notifications, because like I said, there's another video dropping this weekend, so get notification of that one. It's a biggie. Comment down below on whether or not you want to see more of the sci-fi stuff, a little bit more of the D&D style stuff, but I will leave you to the rest of your day, evening, nighttime, whatever. Do take care of yourselves. Toodle pip for now.